as rosy as people thought years later. Alexander admitted that he sometimes imagines that he absolutely does not know what love is. Sometimes he has to lock the darkest feeling inside himself deep, deep. Sometimes he even imagines that he doesn't know who Marcel is. Let everything be fine with them now, and they really love each other. However, Alexander said that other people's love fades away too quickly. It is worth fearing even that Marcel's love, which he so philanthropizes, may change. She may one day say that she has fallen in love with another man and is leaving him. Or she could die in childbirth, or from any other illness. Before meeting Marcel, Alexander thought that all this was complete nonsense. Wolves are etymologically possessed by one person for their entire lives. Therefore, this person seems fragile to them, like a Christmas tree toy. Roman was surprised by this, because in his eyes these two were an ideal couple. He remembered the beautifully sweet girl Marcel with purple hair. She always treated him like her own little brother and spoiled him. With Alexander, they looked like a real ideal married couple. Alexander once even joked that no one was allowed to fall in love with his girlfriend, not even his brothers. Only after finding true love did the wolves understand what it was like for all their predecessors. Alexander was afraid that if he lost Marseille, he would become just like his father. Even if he was alive, he would live as an empty shell, clinging to memories for the rest of his life. Now Harold also understood his older brother's suffering. He really wanted Rohans to truly love him and was ready to do anything for this. But it seemed to him that this would not happen. He was ready to go crazy. Harold was afraid that the girl would never love him back. He was really afraid of someday going crazy from this love. Alexander noticed that the longer his brother pursues the girl, the more she wants to run away from him. Roman was afraid that depending on Lucy's decision, she could end up like one of his brothers. After a few days, he finally came to his senses, and the pain had gone away for the most part. The brothers told Roman that even on the verge of losing consciousness, he continued to mutter Lucy's name all the time. Now the guy was irritated by all his brothers, who began to constantly make fun of him. Only after this illness did Roman understand why their entire family was hiding their dietary habits. This was because they simply could not control them on their own. The Baskervilles were officially cut off from political and economic marriage proposals for a long time. Because it was impossible to predict when love would overtake one of them, it was a time bomb. Roman hoped that this fate would bypass him, but he was wrong. It was very much like some kind of mental illness that Lucy was never supposed to know about. At that moment, Roman hated himself because he was afraid of himself. However, he still wanted to possess Lucy so that she could belong to him. He didn't want the girl to be afraid of him because she was so bright and cheerful. During his illness, Lucy visited him once at his home. It was only a short visit, but her scent permeated the entire room. The guy still couldn't believe that Lucy came to his personal room. Harold believed that his brother should be grateful to him for this visit. But then the guy saw how his younger brother was literally going crazy over the girl, and he felt disgusted. Roman literally worshipped the mug that Lucy held in her hands, pressing it to her mouth. He understood that this was real madness, but he could not help himself. Since then, the guy kept the small mug like the apple of his eye and protected it. He managed to exchange contact information with Lucy, so now he could meet her whenever he wanted. And while Roman was enjoying his love, Harold was recovering from what he saw in the office. It turned out that Roman wanted to buy the hippodrome for the sake of meeting Lucy. At first, Alexander could not believe his ears that the guy was making such large purchases. However, then he smiled and simply decided to buy a hippodrome to please his brother. Harold believed that if they continued to indulge the guy in this spirit, they would completely ruin him. They sincerely believed that if Roman started dating Lucy, he would completely bankrupt their house. However, a few days later, Roman was riding in a carriage and was very unhappy about something. Now the guy was in big trouble for getting involved with Leperdier. Now all he can do is watch Lucy find her happiness with another man. Roman wanted to answer something to this, but did not have time because Alexander interrupted him. He noticed that it was more like a story about Harold's own personal life. The guy was worried because if none of them got married, then the same thing would overtake them all. However, it was at that moment that the brothers noticed a wedding ring on their older brother's finger. Alexander said that Marcel proposed to him, and they will get married next fall, when the girl graduates from university. The guys were incredibly happy for their older brother, but at the same time they themselves were very jealous of him. After that, Alexander walked for some time in an elevated structure and hummed songs to himself. Harold told Roman that his older brother had started to annoy him lately, and if he suddenly disappears in the near future, then everyone will know whose hands it was. And the motive for the murder would not be the desire to inherit the family and business. He was simply infuriated by his happy face. However, Roman noted that he would not be able to carry parcels to him in prison because he himself would be busy managing the family business. The guy decided to change the topic and asked the middle brother about his girlfriend Rohan's. Judging by the expression on his face, everything was more or less in order with them too. Roman was angry because he was the only one who had problems in his personal life. The possible problem was that he had formed a friendly relationship with Lucy from the very beginning. Maybe friendship prevents Lucy from seeing him as a real guy. However, in the end, Roman decided not to rush because he had a lot of time ahead to make the girl fall in love with him. Lucy really wanted to go to one place because they served very tasty desserts. Roman was glad that the girl came to this place for the first time with him. He looked at the sheep, smiled, and said that he really liked it. Lucy didn't understand a little what he meant by these words and clarified. Roman admitted that he likes to do something together with her for the first time. These words went straight to the sheep's heart and left her speechless for a moment. The girl looked at her friend and did not understand why he was acting so sensitively. Lucy really appreciated that Roman was always so honest with her. She looked at his smiling face, and the girl's mood lifted from just the sight of him. What especially gave the guy away was his tail swaying from side to side. Looking at all this, Lucy realized one simple thing. When she saw Roman smile, she stopped feeling like she had done something wrong. And the girl gained confidence that she could make friends with other people too. That's why Lucy told her parents she wanted to go to the local public school. She was going to live and study there as Hutman, not as Leperdier, in honor of the sheep's grandmother. The parents were worried about their daughter and hoped that there she would be able to find what she could not find here. As Lucy had asked, her father looked for a place for her where hardly anyone knew her and which was a fair distance from their home. The head of the Leperdier family placed several envelopes with invitations from different schools on the table in front of Lucy. The girl realized that she would need to look at them and make her choice. Ono calmly took the envelopes from her father's desk and left his office. Lucy asked to be transferred to school before meeting Roman and now did not know what to do. However, the girl hoped that they would keep in touch at a distance. But she was worried that Roman might make new friends while she was away. Lucy realized that she didn't want this and found herself jealous of her friend. She had already gone too far with this school and could not turn away from her intended path. But she also couldn't just ask the wolf to go with her. These thoughts occupied her head constantly and did not allow her to sleep until the next meeting. Even Roman noticed her confusion and said that the girl was unusually silent. His words seemed to bring Lucy out of some kind of trance, and the girl asked to pour her more tea. The drink in her hands was almost completely cold as she sat still and thoughtful. Roman asked why his girlfriend started buying winter clothes so early in the year. He assumed that she was going to go somewhere, and he was right. But Lucy did not admit this to him and simply said that she likes to buy everything in advance. In fact, she wanted to ask a friend to go with her, but did not dare to do so. She didn't want to part with the wolf, but she didn't have the courage to tell him. Every evening before going to bed, Lucy was worried that she could not tell Roman about her imminent departure. She simply looked at the mountains of things that were already folded and ready to go, and now stood in the corner of the room. The girl understood that her silence would not delay the departure date, but she could not do anything with herself. She begged her parents to let her go, but now she didn't want to leave. The sheep was worried that this news could upset Roman. She really wanted Baskerville to be friends only with herself. Lucy doubted that this happened between all friends. The girl sincerely hoped that Roman had the same feelings for her. She was upset because she was going to tell him about her departure today. Then footsteps were heard. Someone approached the door of the girl's room and knocked on it. It was Lucy's younger brother who asked to be let inside. Lion Cub asked if Lucy told Roman about her departure this afternoon. He was worried that his sister would leave without warning his friend about it. The girl was embarrassed, so she rudely remarked that she would deal with her affairs herself. The Lion Cub did not let up and clarified whether Baskerville was really just a friend for her or someone more. Lucy sat stunned on her bed and could not answer this. Seeing this reaction from his older sister, the younger one continued his thought. He suggested that the parents allowed the girl to leave only because of her dangerous closeness with the Baskerville family. Lucy did not expect this and asked her brother to clarify his words. The Lion Cub recalled that Roman was the first to approach her because she is a Leperdier. But the girl decided that her brother was simply interested in her opinion on this topic. The boy knew rumors about the danger of the Baskervilles and was worried about his sister, to which Lucy laughed and said that Roman cannot be dangerous because he is naive and kind, like a dog. But the Lion Cub did not let up and was worried that the wolf and the sheep could secretly meet. He asked Lucy if she had a feeling that Roman treated her as his beloved woman. Louis added that the Baskervilles were famous for always taking whatever they wanted. In addition, their family was especially obsessed with love relationships, judging by the same rumors. But Lucy noticed that she had never cared about rumors before in her life. Louis could not understand such a simple attitude of his older sister towards friendship with Baskerville. He heard that literally not so long ago, complete disorder and real chaos reigned in their family. In order to get a woman, they burned entire cities or betrayed the ruler. They were ready to destroy everything for the sake of love and even massacred each other. Lucy was unpleasant to listen to all these conjectures and rumors about her best friend's family. But Louis added something about the mental illness of the family and reminded that all their children were born wolves. He wouldn't want to doubt Roman, but he and his sister looked a lot like lovers. He asked the girl to draw a line between them because everyone around them had been discussing them lately. Louis asked what Lucy would do if Baskerville really fell in love with her. The girl understood that in some ways her younger brother was right, and this did not make her happy. She just decided to protect herself from unnecessary guarantees and said that the guy was crazy in his speculations. The girl was angry with Louis because according to him, Roman was a psycho, and she herself was a fool in love with him. She even asked her brother why he was so worried about it. Lucy said that Roman was her first friend, and her brother is now insulting him. The girl understood that no one knew the wolf cub as well as she did. Lucy even doubted that her brother knew her well enough. The girl covered her eyes with her hands and cried because her brother believed these rumors. Louis realized he had said something stupid, so he tried to calm his sister down. He considered his older sister very fragile, so he was worried about her relationship with Roman. The girl didn't want to listen to this anymore, so she asked her brother to leave and let her sleep. Louis realized that it was better to leave the girl alone now, so he headed towards the exit. However, he noticed that even if the girl changes her last name and moves to another place, she will still remain his sister. Lucy continued to think about her brother's words, about how she and the wolf looked like a couple in love. The girl wondered if her wolf cub encountered such misunderstandings with each new friend. Only now did she understand why the guy hid his last name at the first meeting. It was like she was now planning to leave, hiding her last name. After this conversation, quite a lot of time passed, spring ended, and summer came. This only meant that the high school year had come to an end. The teacher stood near the blackboard and gave the last instructions to his students. He noted that if people do not have the courage to lose everything, then they will not be able to achieve anything. With these words, he finished his speech and proceeded to presenting certificates. Everyone was called in turn, so Lucy was one of the very last to get her form. The girl doubted that it was possible to confirm all the efforts made with one piece of paper. Only now did it dawn on her that maybe she hadn't been trying hard enough all this time. Lucy realized that she had never approached anyone without fear of being hurt. The girl even thought at home whether they would forgive her right now for this idea of transferring to a public school. She thought about what she would gain if she were brought there, and what she would lose. She spent the rest of the day with these thoughts, which was already drawing to a close. This meant that Lucy was going out with her friend Roman again. They went to a popular exhibition, but did it after the excitement had already subsided. Because of this, the halls were now quite deserted, but Roman did not notice this at all. Her brother's words made Lucy think more about their meetings, and now she tried to look at them from the outside. They were together at the exhibition and looked very much like two lovers. Only now did the girl realize how they looked in the eyes of other people. For the rest of the evening, Lucy watched her friend and tried to analyze his behavior. Roman constantly told her some stories, but the girl did not pay attention to a single picture. After visiting the exhibition, the guys went to drink coffee and chat over desserts. For a long time, Lucy did not dare to say the question that worried her out loud. However, then she collected her thoughts and asked if Roman had a girlfriend. The guy was so taken aback that he even dropped his fork from his hands and silently stared at his friend. And then he cleared his throat embarrassedly and asked the girl to repeat her question. She didn't notice anything strange, so she asked again if the guy had a girl he liked. Roman became embarrassed, said that there was no one like that, and asked why Lucy was interested in this. He even suggested that the girl could have heard this from someone, to which Lucy replied that no one had told her anything like that. She noted to herself that the wolf had not yet found a girl he liked. However, this also meant that she was not included in this list either. Roman once again asked why his friend asked such a question. He noticed that he also had something to ask his friend the sheep. He was interested in what the girl would do if he had a loved one. He was very interested in what exactly the sheep wanted to know from him. Lucy said that she would congratulate him, but she asked simply out of curiosity. She also asked why this question seemed strange to the wolf. After this conversation, Lucy decided for herself that she did not consider her friend crazy. After visiting the exhibition and having tea with Roman, the girl returned to her home. She lay down on the bed, thinking only about the fact that she again could not say about her departure. At this rate, she could well have reported this literally the day before departure. Lucy didn't know how to overcome her fear, but she wanted to do something about it. She thought that Roman might fall in love with someone after she left. The girl was worried that having fallen in love with someone, the wolf would stop paying attention to her. She believed that if Roman had a beloved, he would be ready to do anything for her. Lucy was sure that the wolf would be even more attentive to his beloved than to her, because simple sympathy and true love are definitely different things. The girl suddenly noticed that these thoughts suddenly made her feel somehow bad. She again imagined that Roman might have a closer person than herself. Then the wolf will pay more attention to this girl and leave Lucy aside. The more she thought about it, the more painful it became for some reason. The girl suddenly realized that the problem was with her and doubted that she would be able to say anything about her departure. Suddenly, her train of thoughts was interrupted by a knock coming from the window. The girl could not understand what kind of sound it was, so she suddenly sat up straight on the bed. Lucy realized that the knocking was coming from the window, so she headed towards it. The girl slowly walked up to the frame and looked down, surprised. Right under her windows late at night stood her friend the wolf cub Roman. The guy looked very embarrassed, even his ears were down. It took the girl some time to go down to the street at 1 in the morning and talk to him. At first she assumed that the wolf ran away from home or had a fight with his brothers, but he denied everything. Instead of a normal explanation, the guy started talking about the weather. It seemed to the girl that any answer she gave would please him and make him swing his tail from side to side. It was clear that their conversation was not going well, because the guys had been sitting in silence for some time. Lucy even suggested that her friend might have done something wrong at home. Therefore, the girl decided not to be shy and asked directly why he came to her at night. Roman admitted that he was going to tell her something important. He wanted to clear up the rumors that were circulating about their family and society. The guy was worried that the girl would be embarrassed to ask him herself and would suffer because of it. He said that when a member of their family falls in love with someone, he ceases to distinguish between heaven and earth. Sometimes he cannot achieve reciprocity or loses his beloved, then terrible things happen. In this case, the wolf goes crazy or commits suicide. These words truly frightened the poor lamb. She even shuddered. The girl understood how difficult it was for her friend to tell her all this now. Roman added that in fact these are just delusional stories, just rumors made up by those who want to harm the Baskerville family. That is why his father, who lost his mother, is said to be half crazy. His older brother has also been in a relationship for several years and is very happy. Lucy pressed her hands to her chest and said that she had not heard anything like that. Roman continued his story and added that he was not going to marry by agreement. He sincerely believed that bargaining for love was actually disgusting. He then turned to his girlfriend and asked what she thought about it. The guy silently looked at Lucy and waited for her to answer his question. The girl looked straight into her friend's eyes and agreed with his thoughts. In her family, immediately after her birth, relatives terminated the marriage agreement with her. Wolf Roman Baskerville was one of those who dream of marriage for love. The guy was very embarrassed by his story and thought it was a very boring story. But Lucy noticed that he also listened to her stories about what had accumulated. The girl stroked the wolf's head and said that she understood him. She understood that it was very difficult to be misunderstood because of her appearance or family. The girl doubted that this was the only reason why the guy decided to visit her at such a late hour. Besides, she was sick of supporting him in the same yard where she was going to leave him. Roman added that he is afraid of something else related to the girl he loves. He was worried that she might misunderstand everything because of all these rumors. In fact, he had a loved one, and the guy asked permission to talk about him. As soon as he opened his mouth, Lucy interrupted the guy and said that she would leave soon. The guy immediately stopped and asked what she meant by these words. He began asking the girl when she was leaving and where she was going. Moreover, he sincerely did not understand why this was happening so unexpectedly. Lucy told him that she had transferred to a public school in the province, which was very far away. Later, she did not understand why at that moment she behaved so cowardly with him. She apologized for not talking about it earlier and promised to come back for the holidays. The girl did it now because she didn't want to hear about her friend's love in the yard where they were destined to part. After all, if a guy fell in love with someone, then he should have forgotten about her. Roman was worried that he didn't have time to tell Lucy about something because he didn't know that she would leave. The guy was upset that the sheep was talking about it just now. If the decision to leave had been made a long time ago, then she could have said so earlier. Lucy was ashamed of her action, so she sat in silence for a while. Then she said that she did not know why she did this, and that she was leaving only for a while. She is still Roman's friend, and nothing will change in their relationship because of this. The wolf was already upset, but after the words about his friend, he suddenly became even more upset. He realized that the girl was leaving her noble family because she wanted to live freely. He figured that before moving to a new school, she decided to use him to relieve her boredom a little. Lucy didn't understand what kind of nonsense he was talking about, but the wolf had already risen from his place. He wondered if Lucy thought even a little about him when she decided to leave. The girl tried to calm him down, but the young man did not want to be touched. He said that he did not understand his girlfriend at all and was completely confused. Lucy understood that it was entirely her fault, so she tried to stop Roman. But the younger Baskerville was very upset, so he turned around and rushed away. The girl screamed after him again and again, but the wolf cub did not stop. Only after this did Lucy realize that it was useless to call the guy. He left. The thought came into her head that he loved her, but the girl still couldn't believe it. She still thought it was impossible, but now she had lost the opportunity to know the answer, perhaps forever. It was already past 1 in the morning. Everything around was illuminated only by dim lanterns. Lucy continued to stand in the same place and believed that she should not have done this. She should not have informed her friend of her departure in such a terrible way. After that, the girl came to her senses and headed towards the house, where her brother was already meeting her. The boy saw his sister from afar and immediately rushed to meet her. He said that he was very worried about the girl and thought that she decided to run away. Louis saw that Lucy was very upset and was ready to cry any minute. The brother helped the girl into the house immediately, after which she said that she considered herself a terrible person, real trash. All this time she had no friends, not because of her family, but because she has a cowardly and selfish character. Louis listened to all this and could not believe that his older sister was saying this. The girl realized that it was that night that she lost Roman. She regretted not having explained everything properly a little earlier. Little by little, Lucy stopped understanding who she was, so she wanted to be among people who would take care of her. This is exactly the kind of person her friend Roman turned out to be in her life. The girl believed that if she didn't leave now, she wouldn't be able to do anything like that ever again. However, she couldn't stop thinking about who the girl was that the wolf liked. Lucy was worried that after she left, another person might completely take her place. She wrote a letter asking him to contact her when Roman stopped being angry. The girl admitted that it was all her fault, and she shouldn't have talked about her departure in that way. But she was worried that her friends would part so easily. The girl was still wondering whether her friend would go with her. Immediately after that, she began to wonder if she had actually done wrong. The girl crumpled up the next written letter and threw it away with the rest of the trash. She sat for a very long time, trying to compose at least some kind of adequate message. Thus, behind the endless writing of letters, the old day ended and a new one began. Louis came to his sister and demanded that you tell him what happened that night. He looked at her sister's eyes and promised that she would not tell her parents anything. Only after this did Lucy agree to tell him about everything that happened then. He didn't understand how Roman could be angry just because his friend was leaving to go to public school. The guy added that such a crazy wolf is not worthy of his older sister's tears. The girl was surprised by such a violent reaction from her younger brother, but she was flattered by it. Louis was very angry with Roman and thought that he was taking on too much. The guy was sure that his sister did not have to report to anyone regarding all her life plans. Lucy was sure that she should apologize to her friend before leaving. But Louis forbade her to do this, because the wolf showed himself too emotional in such a situation. The guy didn't like the fact that this was not the first time his sister was crying because of Baskerville, even though Lucy told him that last time she cried for a different reason. Louis noticed that ordinary friends just don't behave like that with each other. However, his words seemed to have no effect on Lucy's mood. The girl believed that it was all her fault. She was too sensitive and terribly tactless. The lion cub could not believe that his beloved sister spoke of herself like that. He didn't understand why, if the name Baskerville came up in a conversation, his sister immediately began to be so servile. The girl asked her brother not to be angry, but rather to tell her how to make peace with a friend if you quarreled. If it was a matter of winning or losing, then Lucy wanted to lose and end it. She later recalled that at that moment she wanted to look into Roman's face and apologize to him. The girl was worried that the young wolf did not accept her messages. What she really wanted to know was how to make peace, not how to win. Louis saw that his sister was completely unstuck, so he ran up to her. He tried to calm Lucy down and said that it was Baskerville who acted badly in this situation. Even if friends have a fight because one of you is leaving, the other should say goodbye to him properly. Lucy thought that if she had continued to go to private school, this would never have happened. However, Louis noticed that they had already quarreled, and this fact could not be changed. The guy said that some people just need a little more time to calm down after a fight, and also asked after the reconciliation to tell Roman to be careful at night. Lucy finally smiled that her brother was on her side and supporting her. From that moment on, Roman stopped appearing in secular society, and the girl could not find him anywhere. At all events, she no longer hid on the balcony or in her room. Every time Lucy came to the event, she hoped that Roman would come today. She walked around all the rooms and looked for him among the crowd of people. She peered into the faces of those present, hoping to find her friend among them. The girl watched other people just having fun together and having a good time. However, Roman still did not appear at such events, so the girl had not seen him for a long time. So this time, Lucy again stood near the wall, until someone suddenly called her by name. The girl raised her head to see the man who was addressing her. It turned out to be a pretty girl with long, dark, almost black hair. The girl was luxuriously dressed, and with every step she came closer and closer to Lucy. She smiled friendly, and her amber eyes radiated confidence. The girl came close enough to the heroine and asked if she remembered her. It seemed to Lucy that her interlocutor was literally glowing with happiness. The girl looked luxurious, even for this social event, in her beautiful black and burgundy dress. Of course, Lucy recognized her interlocutor, because it was Sue Kane. The girl remembered that there had once been times when they studied in the same class. Kane was the captain of the riding team, and Lucy loved watching her practice. Sue was surprised by this because she thought that the sheep was not at all interested in the life of the class. But Lucy said embarrassedly that it was absolutely not true. The interlocutor was glad to hear that the girl was interested in the life of her class. She asked how Lucy had been all this time, and they began a dialogue. Sue admitted that she had to work up the courage to talk to the sheep. From the outside, she seemed a little rude and unapproachable to all other people. At school, all she ever did was fold origami or read a book. Therefore, the girl was glad that she was able to talk to a classmate who had always been interesting to her. She asked Lucy which high school she was going to. The girl admitted that she was going to study at a provincial public school. After that, Kane's classmate suggested introducing her to several people if she didn't mind. Lucy didn't mind, so she happily accepted her friend's invitation. She didn't mind talking to new people and making acquaintances in order to quickly forget about Roman. She also thanked her classmate with a smile on her face for being the first to talk to her. Sue noted that the conversation was also very pleasant for her, and she did not regret anything. The girl realized that Lucy turned out to be very friendly, which did not coincide with the rumors. After that, the girls said goodbye and went in different directions to do their own thing. Lucy realized that I myself had been mistaken about myself before, and so were others even more so. The girl realized that the fact that she talked to Sue as if nothing had happened thanks to Roman. Lucy admitted to herself that she wanted to see him and apologize to the guy. She was interested in what he was doing now and where he was spending his time. The girl remembered her friend's radiant smile and his beautiful silver eyes. She missed them having fun together. of her toes. This entire girl was just incredibly cute. Lucy accepted the carrot with pleasure and promised that she would eat it soon. The rabbit was very pleased with this and said that her name was Emma. Lucy responded by introducing herself with the surname Hutman, which she inherited from her great-grandmother. Emma asked permission to touch the sheep's horns because they seemed unusual to her. It was the first time she'd seen such twisted horns, which turned out to be softer than she thought. Lucy said that these horns feel the same way as a fingernail or toenail. After that, the rabbit asked how our heroine was caring for them. Her friend uses cuticle cream because it makes her horns look better. The rabbit was a little embarrassed because Lucy had such an expression on her face as if she was surprised. The girl turned out to be right because Lucy really couldn't understand one simple thing. She wondered why everyone at the school acted as if she didn't have any horns on her head. The girl was glad about this, and a little later asked to touch the ears and the rabbit in return. At the same time, another new classmate approached her and asked her to treat him to a carrot. Lucy looked around and saw that a variety of animals had gathered in this school. And at this time, the rabbit handed a piece of fresh carrot to her new friend. The guy extended his hand forward and took the carrot and introduced himself as Khalid. But he asked his classmates to just call him Kali if they wanted. The rabbit looked at the guy and asked if he was a retriever. Lucy would be very surprised that such questions could be asked so easily. However, Khalid was in no hurry to answer the questions and invited the girls to guess for themselves. The rabbit assumed that the guy was a peacock because he was very smart. Lucy asked why their new friend didn't spit the carrot back out. The girl was completely sure that the guy would get burns if he ate her. Khalid was very surprised when he suddenly heard these words from her, but instead of answering, he just raised his right hand to his mouth and licked his fingers. He was surprised that Lucy figured out that he was a snake so quickly. The young man even thought that they had crossed paths before, but the girl said that she had come from afar. But the rabbit was angry because the guy meanly put something in his mouth that he couldn't even eat. Khalid noticed that with such an expression, the girl discriminates against snakes. He noticed that if he himself had said that the rabbit had 2 big ears, she would not have liked it. He turned out to be right, because the girl immediately ran up to him and grabbed him by the clothes. The guy immediately apologized and said that he had a moment of mental confusion. The rabbit advised the snake to use his brain when he was about to say something. It is not known how much longer the guys would argue, but at that moment, the door to their class fell off. It turned out to be a teacher who entered the classroom before the start of the lesson. The rabbit sat behind her and looked at the snake with a contemptuous look, wanting him to be a good boy. Lucy was surprised that a raccoon would teach their lessons. Only after this did the girl notice something strange that distinguished her new class from the previous ones. Unlike the previous private school, this one had a lot of different animals. There was even a guy who was a deer and wore huge, beautiful antlers on his head. This allowed Lucy to understand that she was not the only one at this school. For the first time in a long time, the girl was able to smile calmly and not think about sad moments. She looked out the window and thought that in this school, she was just a piece of an unusual landscape. Outside the window, there was beautiful sunny weather, which added to our heroine's good mood. At lunch at the school cafeteria, the girl also encountered something new for herself. There was a lot of vegetarian food on the tables at this academy. At that moment, Emma came into the buffet and invited her new classmate to have lunch together. The girl said that Lucy simply had to try local apples. Sheep. Thought that without Roman, she would not be able to make friends with anyone else. But then it turned out that she found several people to communicate with on the very first day. Khalid also joined them at lunch, having already put some food on his plate. Lucy was glad to have a new addition to the company, but the rabbit was clearly annoyed by it. She pointed to the vegetable and fruit plate in her hands and asked if the snake was going to eat that too. Khalid answered that he is not going to eat, but would like to sit with the guys. He was already sick of the rabbit's accusations, so the guy assumed that she was a racist. These words sobered up the girl a little, and she agreed that we could have lunch together. Emma knew that there was a prestigious school nearby just for snakes, to which the guy replied that he came here at the behest of his parents, who did not want to waste money on going to school. The rabbit was annoyed that the guy constantly used words like discrimination and prejudice. Lucy tried not to enter into their agreement, just looked around. The girl saw a small portion of her new acquaintance and thought that he would not be able to get enough of her. She remembered her friend Sue Kane, who ate huge portions of meat. The snake noticed a slight confusion on the side of his new acquaintance. He put his finger to his lips and asked not to say anything about it. Lucy decided that the guy might have his own reasons for doing this. She answered questions from her friends, who were very surprised that the girl came from the capital. Lucy explained this by saying that she wanted to move to where her great-grandmother once lived. After this answer, silence reigned at the table. No one uttered a sound. After that, the conversation flowed as it usually does between completely normal classmates. Khalid wanted to sit with them, but the rabbit did not understand why the guy could not spend time with his friends. The snake noticed that he didn't have any friends at this school yet and asked why Emma didn't like him so much. The girl replied that it was not that she didn't like him, but something else. Khalid could not simply accept such an answer and asked the girl to stop hating him. While they were arguing, Lucy decided to herself that she needed to make at least one friend with horns on her head. Quiet everyday life began as a student at a provincial school for creatures. The girl took the advice of her new friend and bought herself a cream for the horns. She began applying it to them every morning and evening, which improved their appearance. The smell was so wonderful that everyone in the school started turning to look at Lucy. The girl did not immediately notice that this delicious aroma was constantly leaving her, but the rabbit immediately smelled it as soon as she entered the audience. She approached Lucy and was clearly very excited about something. She asked the girl to listen to her and take the words correctly. Emma noticed that Lucy now had a very tasty smell that made her want to bite and eat her. The sheep did not at all expect such a reaction from another herbivore. The girl took her friend's words seriously and decided to double-check everything in the evening. The next day, she brought her cream to school and showed it to the rabbit. It turned out that the cream was for those who are predators, and Lucy did not notice it. She said it was her first time buying something like this, so she didn't know much about it. It was a little dangerous because all day she smelled like food for predators. Even Khalid agreed with his friend this time and advised her to read the label more carefully. Lucy agreed and said that she would replace this cream with one that is unscented. The girl was upset because she thought she was very stupid. However, friends noticed that everything was fine. Classmates would forget about it in a few days. After that, the rabbit attacked the snake because it was funny for him in such a situation. Khalid noted that he himself must check all the existing perfumes at home and throw out the unnecessary ones. Rabbit couldn't understand why the guy would do all this. After all, the main thing is that he himself does not feel anything like that. But instead, the guy just asked how the girl felt about the smell of flower-scented perfume. In fact, Khalid did not even know that flowers are divided into edible and inedible. He was more amazed that Lucy herself found out about this only now. The girl didn't know what to answer to this, so she just stood there silently. She later added that she didn't want that kind of attention anyway. The rabbit reminded her that soon everyone would forget about what happened, so there was nothing to worry about. Lucy knew that smells were perceived differently depending on one's bloodline, because she was always just trying to live up to another side of herself. Homework and exams alternated between each other, so the semester flew by. Lucy regularly attended all classes and took excellent notes. She came to the school because she wanted to mingle with the crowd like this. But for some reason, she had the feeling that her heart was about to break into pieces. The girl was interested in how her friend Roman Baskerville was doing there. The flow of thoughts was interrupted by the rabbit, who asked the girl how she was going to celebrate the holidays. Lucy replied that she plans to stay here because her house is too far from school. Hearing this, the rabbit invited Lucy to her home for the winter holidays. The snake overheard their conversation and said that he also wanted to join the trip. He looked the rabbit straight in the eyes and asked if she would take him with her. At first, the girl was very surprised by this proposal from the guy. Khalid already spent time with them all the time, so she didn't understand what else he needed. And the guy still couldn't understand why the girl didn't love him so much. Lucy at that time was immersed in her thoughts and constantly thought about Roman. She wondered if she suddenly had a fight with Emma or Khalid, would her heart hurt in the same way? The girl did not understand why Roman had never written anything in all this time. She even began to doubt that they had ever been friends at all. A few days later, rumors spread around the school that a new student had transferred to them. Everyone was surprised that the guy transferred almost before the holidays and not at the beginning of the school year. They said that he came from the capital and his family was very rich. We assumed that he had either done something wrong or was an illegitimate child who was hated in the family. After these words, Lucy suddenly had a thought, but the girl couldn't believe it. She abruptly jumped up from her chair and walked out of the classroom. The girl didn't understand why she was going somewhere if she decided that she wouldn't do anything. Even if it was Roman, she promised herself that she would forget about him. Lucy didn't know if they could make peace, so she didn't want to hope for anything. She didn't understand why Roman would come here. It's unlikely that he would have followed her. Besides, Lucy never told the guy where she was going. Suddenly, the girl heard someone calling her name, so she stopped in the middle of the corridor. Lucy realized that this voice was very familiar to her and belonged to her friend. The girl began to look around, and tears appeared in her eyes. Looked to the side, the girl's eyes came across a figure familiar to her. The guy was beautifully dressed in a suit and wore a soft green scarf around his neck. He stood in the middle of the corridor and looked at his friend, asking her why she froze. Roman extended his hand forward and asked the girl to come closer to him. He himself moved closer to Lucy to hug him as before. The girl shuddered from such an unexpected request and from the fact that it really turned out to be Roman. The guy said that he really missed his best friend very much. He looked straight into the girl's eyes and asked if she missed him too. The guy bent down and grabbed the girl's fragile body into a tight embrace. Lucy was so amazed by what was happening that she froze and did nothing. She missed her friend very much and dreamed of seeing him as quickly as possible. She even thought that maybe her friend had not received her letter. The girl did not understand what was happening, because just recently she was very angry with him. However, Lucy pulled herself together and returned her friend's hug. Roman once again said that the girl could not even imagine how much he missed her. But Lucy noticed something strange in his behavior now. Roman, unlike in the past, no longer waved his tail from side to side. Lucy realized that this guy was different from the Roman she knew. She asked the guy to let her go and asked why he had never contacted her all this time. This question took Roman by surprise. The guy was surprised and remained silent in response. He then let go of his girlfriend and looked straight into her light blue eyes. The guy replied that he had just been very busy lately. Lucy was amazed that that was all her friend could say. The wolf admitted that he looked at the school plan, but didn't understand anything, so he asked his friend to take him to the right office. Lucy didn't know if she should comply with this request, so she thought for a few seconds. After which the girl finally made up her mind and asked to show her his card. She looked at the piece of paper and immediately knew where they would need to go next. Lucy walked her friend to his apartment and then walked back to class. There, a snake and a rabbit were already waiting for her, who did not understand what had happened to the girl. Lucy tried to justify herself by saying that she simply had an urgent matter. She couldn't get out of her head why Roman behaved this way with her. Lucy and the rabbit continued to chat pleasantly and discuss the past days. Suddenly, the snake began to react strangely and called our heroine by name. He apologized in advance for the unpleasant news that he was going to tell the girl. The guy said that a very strange smell was coming from the girl. Zmay was very embarrassed, but still asked the girl to take off some clothes. The rabbit considered him a vile pervert and called him angrily. Lucy didn't understand why the guy suddenly changed so much and began to behave differently. Then Khalid suggested changing into at least a training suit. Lucy and the rabbit could no longer listen to these stories, so they decided to change clothes. The sheep walked away for a while and completely took off her old uniform and folded it flat. She herself wore a dark purple suit, which emphasized the color of her hair. Emma still didn't understand what had happened, why her friend had to change clothes. Lucy carefully folded her dress and put her things next to it. She grabbed the stack of old dress and brought it to her nose. The rabbit tried to find at least some smell, but it was still not there. She even suggested that the guy go to the hospital and check his sense of smell. However, Khalid was not going to let the rabbit keep her friend's smelly clothes. He grabbed the things and carried them as far away from the girls as possible. The guy put the dress down, then abruptly slammed it shut. Only after that did he tell the girl not to dare touch these clothes ever again. The rabbit thought that her friend had lost his mind, which is why he was acting so strangely. Khalid asked Lucy if she touched something strange when she went out. The girl replied that she didn't seem to touch anything unusual. Khalid noticed that it didn't feel like normal touching and asked if Lucy was seeing someone. The girl only replied that she had not met anyone during her short escape. The snake noticed that if the girl had not changed her clothes, she would not have been able to attend classes normally. Lucy immediately touched her tender horns, which she had been lubricating with cream for several days. And Khalid and Emma continued to argue, as they did every day. I still couldn't understand what this sudden story with the smell was. The guy was clearly uncomfortable talking about this topic, so he tried to move the conversation to something else. Emma and Lucy were not very happy with this situation, and at this time, Khalid took advantage of the advice, sat down at the table, and grabbed his head with his hands. He suggested telling girls that they shouldn't do something, but he didn't explain it in any way. And Lucy again found herself in a situation where two friends were quarreling next to her. The girl was already used to this, so she didn't pay so much attention to their swearing. Instead, she remembered the meeting with Roman and did not understand why she lied. Several days have passed since that incident, and rumors about Roman have already spread throughout the school. People were discussing the fact that the guy hugged someone very tightly in the corridor on the very first day. Everyone around was sure that the guy had arrived at this school to see his girlfriend. They considered this a very romantic act and were on the guy's side. Lucy listened to all these conversations and couldn't help but worry about them. Khalid noticed that the girl was especially absent-minded today. He asked if the girl was really doing well, because she didn't look very good. The guy asked me to at least tell him what was happening to her. Lucy turned to the window and said that nothing unusual had happened. The girl was confused because she didn't know why Roman came to school. The sheep did not understand why Roman was so cold towards her. Lucy hoped that the guy would at least contact her with roses after their quarrel. The girl was very lost in her thoughts and did not notice the end of the lesson. Khalid suggested that his friend take a walk and get some air outside. Lucy really needed to come to her senses a little, so she agreed. The guys went outside, where the snake once again noticed that the girl was behaving strangely. Lucy wondered if she really still had that strange smell. She was very interested in what exactly that smell was. Khalid immediately imagined a huge gray wolf, which he associated with this scent. The guy said the smell was just a little dangerous, but didn't go into detail. Lucy didn't really like her new friend's vague answer. She saw that the guy seemed to want to tell her something, but did not dare. He said to be sure to turn to him for help if someone offends her. At this moment, a rabbit just ran up to them and said that it was time for lunch. The guys realized that they should head to the dining room if they wanted to have time to eat something. For lunch, they had a standard portion of vegetables and fruits with various drinks. Lucy had no appetite at all, and her head was a complete mess because of Roman. The girl was sitting in the dining room when suddenly the guy appeared there, accompanied by other people. Lucy immediately noticed him and began to follow the guy with her eyes. It seemed to her that now he began to look even more mature than before. The snake looked at Roman and asked if this was the famous Baskerville. Emma noticed that the guy was very handsome, and it was impossible not to pay attention to him. After this, the rabbit and the snake began to argue about how the wolf seemed to them from the outside. Lucy, as usual, did not participate in the conversation, but simply looked at Roman. Just at that moment, the wolf turned away from his conversation with his friends and looked at Lucy. The girl noticed that her gazes crossed and looked away first. However, Roman was not going to let her go just like that this time. He said a few words to his friend and headed towards our friend's table. Emma was horrified because the guy was looking at her and walking towards them. Khalid was not happy that the girl was scared, so he turned to the wolf. However, the guys did not at all expect that Baskerville would approach them and call Lucy's name. The girl also didn't expect the guy to address her so openly. Roman, meanwhile, asked the girl for permission to have lunch together after all this time. Lucy immediately realized that her quiet school life was over. The girl had already noticed these curious glances directed at her. Roman did not notice anything around him and asked permission to join the group of friends at the table. Lucy didn't understand why the guy started acting this way, even though he was cold at first. The rabbit noticed how strangely her new friend reacted to this wolf. The girl immediately guessed that the guys knew each other and were very close. She jumped up from her seat and began to lift the kite from its place. Emma pretended that they urgently needed to talk about something in private. Roman watched the two leave with his eyes and then turned to the people. He realized that these guys were very close to his girlfriend at the new school. After they left, the wolf calmly sat down in the vacant seat at the table. Roman looked at Lucy and asked if she was friends with that snake. The guy was worried that it might be dangerous because Khalid was too big. He thought that the snake could become king among the herbivores who went to this school. Roman said that recently he has been following a vegan diet, so he will eat vegetables and fruits. Lucy also noticed that he had grown 25 centimeters taller since their last meeting. Previously, they had not had the opportunity to talk, so Roman asked his friend how she was doing. Then he added that everything in his life had been far from good lately. Lucy was very surprised by this answer, because she did not expect this from Roman at all. However, the guy did not want to develop this topic further, so he asked about the sheep's friends. Then he again mentioned how bad his life was without his girlfriend and how much he missed her. This infuriated Lucy, because he was the one who did not want to meet her and avoided her. Roman admitted that he read the letter to the girl, which is why he came here. And he also found this scarf in the envelope as a message, so now he wears it all the time. The guy was afraid that without the scarf, the girl wouldn't recognize him, because he had changed a lot lately. He sincerely believed that the girl wanted to forget him as quickly as possible, so she might not remember. Lucy looked at her friend and did not understand why he was talking such nonsense. The guy was sure that the girl had left him and gone to this provincial school. The sheep was unhappy that the guy allowed himself to talk to her in such a tone. Before leaving, she told him that it would only be a change in the physical distance between them. However, this was not true, because the girl wanted to get rid of all signs of her past life. She wanted to throw away everything, including her last name, and live calmly and safely without any teachings. Lucy still couldn't understand why her friend was even saying all this. She herself understood that even if she decided to throw everyone out, Roman would be an exception. In addition, right before leaving, Roman admitted that he liked someone. The girl noticed that it was Baskerville who had not written to her for several months. She still remembered that last evening and the number of tears she cried. I wanted to tell you that I spent every evening in the park, but I didn't have time. Roman looked straight into the girl's eyes and said that he missed her. This conversation even brought real tears to Lucy's eyes, and the guy kept repeating how much he missed his girlfriend. He understood that the girl was puzzled by his arrival at this particular school. Roman admitted that he did it because Lucy Hutman was there. For some reason, the guy believed that when they met, they should pretend to be strangers to each other. Both did not want to appear to each other as some kind of continuous reminder of the past. The guy noticed that if the girl wants to continue hiding, then she can do so. But he himself, one way or another, really missed Lucy very much, so he came here to see her. The girl, as usual in such situations, simply sat on a chair and did not understand what to do next. Roman got up from the table and headed towards the exit, and Lucy looked once again at the retreating silhouette of a wolf in the distance. The guy turned away, but Lucy managed to think that she had caused him a lot of pain. The girl still saw how the guy was going through the conversation. Lucy was unpleasant that the guy this time thought that it was her fault. Just at this moment, her friends came from a rabbit of snakes. The guys immediately noticed that the girl's eyes were wet, as if she had just cried. The snake immediately guessed that the wolf Baskerville had come to visit her. She said that she accidentally ran into him in the school hallway. Khalid looked straight into our heroine's eyes, trying to find the right option. The girl also attacked him with her gaze, but still could not bear so much. Several more days passed, mostly discussing Roman and his girlfriend. Lucy still didn't understand how to behave with the snake. The guy asked if the wolf was the sheep's lover, but Lucy answered in the negative. The girl said that the wolf was just a friend, although they had not hugged often before. Khalid told the girl that friends of the opposite sex usually don't do that. In addition, he noticed that you do not necessarily interact with him if they do not meet. Before I could tell the most important thing, Emma entered the room. Khalid and Lucy were immediately forced to interrupt their dialogue. The snake came to his senses first and waved friendly to the girl, beckoning her to come to him. Emma came closer, and they again began to argue about all sorts of topics, like real friends. Lucy was glad that the girl had appeared, because in this case, the snake would leave her behind. Only now did the sheep realize that Roman did not consider their relationship to be friendly at all. Lucy decided for herself that she must resolve this misunderstanding as soon as possible. Time flew by quickly, and real autumn had already arrived outside the window. The girl decided for herself that today she must sort out all the misunderstandings. From the very morning, she was as decisive as possible about her actions. Loudly clicking her heels, Lucy headed to the next class. The girl just walked in and immediately from the doorway demanded to show her where Roman Baskerville was. The guy was standing right in the center of the room, talking to some other girl. He noticed that Lucy came to him and wanted to talk about something very important. This time, the girl decided not to hold back and say everything loudly and clearly, without taking into account the opinions of others. The first thing she noticed was that Roman missed her as much as she missed him, although the girl was sure that the guy was even more bored than she was. People in the class, of course, heard their conversation and already began to whisper. Roman looked down at his girlfriend and was silent for a while. Lucy saw that she was not getting any answer, so she began to worry herself. The girl looked away and invited her friend to talk a little about it. Roman still couldn't answer anything and just stood silently and looked at the girl. He then said that he already had an appointment right now, so he was a little busy. Lucy did not expect this turn of events at all, so she was confused. Roman seemed very adamant in his decisions and actions. Then the girl next to him suddenly woke up and said that it was she who invited him to dinner. She even invited Lucy to join them if she wanted. Of course, the girl did not do this and politely refused the invitation, after which Roman said goodbye to his girlfriend and said that they would see each other next time. Lucy was confused because she was sure that the guy moved to this school because of her. Roman himself recently told her that he is not offended by her at all. And now he simply turns around and once again leaves the conversation. Lucy thought they had grown far enough apart now. She spends time with her friends. Roman spends time with his friends. Late evening in a large provincial town, many people's windows are still burning. Lucy was drinking warm tea from a huge mug when she noticed something unusual. There was a small paper note tied to her bag that wasn't there before. It was said that Roman asked to give him a tour of the school at night. Lucy was surprised that Roman wrote a note for her. At the appointed time and day, the girl appeared in front of the closed park. Lucy couldn't miss the meeting, so she arrived on time and immediately started looking for her friend Roman. And at that time, the guy stood calmly in front of the entrance gate and waited for her. First of all, he smiled sweetly and thanked the girl for coming to him. The guy took a couple of steps forward and slowly extended his hand to the girl's face. He gently stroked her cheek and realized that the girl was cold. Immediately after this, the guy rushed to hug his friend to help her warm up. Thus they stood for several minutes in complete silence. Lucy didn't understand at all why the guy suddenly began to behave this way if he had recently been cold. The girl realized that their hug was a little too long for the usual friendly greeting. She remembered the snake's words about the smell and asked if the wolf could smell it. However, from Roman's surprised face, the girl guessed that he did not understand what he was talking about. Roman wanted to figure it out and asked Lucy again what smell she was talking about. The girl said that yesterday she was told that a strange smell was coming from her. Roman was angry that one of her friends would say such a thing. Lucy promised to introduce Roman to all her friends, but she was still worried about the smell. The girl talked a little about how wonderful her new friends Emma and Khalid are. Roman reached forward and gently took Lucy's right wrist. She sniffed the girl's hand and said that she only heard a pleasant aroma. The guy decided that the snake simply decided to play a trick on the girl and deceived her. And the guy also noticed that if he were in the snake's place, he wouldn't joke with the girl like that. What worried Lucy at that moment was that her friend's tail was motionless. I didn't understand why this was happening, because before he had never found a place for himself. The sheep removed her hand from the wolf's hands and added that the snake was not such a bad person. Even if he likes to joke, he will never try to offend anyone. The guys walked leisurely around the park and talked about various abstract topics. Lucy noticed that her friend looked like a completely different person, which interested him. The girl admitted that after a while the guy began to seem a little stranger to her. However, Roman noticed that he was still the same as before. Lucy looked at her friend under the night sky and couldn't take her eyes off him. She wondered why he asked to give him a tour of the school at night. Roman generally continued to talk about the fact that Khalid is a bad guy. Roman asked how the sheep managed to make friends with this wolf. Lucy replied that she was just lucky because both Emma and Khalid spoke to her first. The sheep asked Roman how his day was, why he didn't ask that girl to show him the school. The guy replied that he just got bored with her, and that's why he didn't do it. Lucy is glad that her best friend decided to ask her for the excursion. However, the girl was still fiddling with her fingers because of her excitement. This touched Roman a little, who watched the girl closely. He covered her hands with his palm and noticed that the sheep was all cold. He promised to walk the girl home when she left. This proposal surprised Lucy very much, but she was pleased with his concern. Today was a very cloudless night, and there was a full moon in the night sky. Roman said that in fact, a lot happened to him during Lucy's absence. The girl was ready to hear this story in full, so at first she was scared. Lucy understood that the guy wanted to tell her something, and the excursion was just an excuse. The girl called him a very wonderful friend. It was clear from Roman's face that this word again caused him a lot of pain. With an expression of some despair, the guy said that they were really best friends. Then Lucy asked why her friend had not contacted her all this time. Roman said that his older brother Alexander got married and they had a modest wedding. The guy himself wanted to arrange a small ceremony before his bride left to study abroad. In fact, Roman wanted to tell his friend about this for a long time. He wanted to do this for a very long time, but something kept stopping him. Roman seemed to be mentally determined to jump from a huge cliff. He looked so scared. He admitted that he really hated his girlfriend for a while, but the guy quickly added that he hated her for his own reasons, without her fault. He explained that he understood his own feelings too late. He asked if Lucy knew the reason why he came here. Roman remembered very well that the girl missed him very much. She was already gradually guessing what the whole conversation between them was leading to. Roman promised that he would say what he was going to say on the day of their last meeting. He looked straight into Lucy's eyes and said that he really loved her very much. Roman said he came to finish the confession he was going to make that day. He understood that he had done a lot of bad things towards his girlfriend. He was angry and tormented, although she had not done anything wrong and was not to blame for not being able to reciprocate. Now the wolf understood that Lucy perceived him simply as a friend. Roman added that he needed time to put all his thoughts in order. If he had loaded up with his girlfriend then, he would not have been able to let her go later. Roman was sure that he would ask the girl not to leave him and not to go anywhere. That's why he came to apologize, because Lucy shouldn't lose her precious friend. Now everything was okay, because the wolf no longer had such thoughts when he offended the girl. Now he too only saw her as a friend and not as his love interest. The wolf admitted that he could now become a true friend for the girl. He looked into her eyes and asked if she missed him. He also asked if he could still call himself her close friend. Lucy replied that she completely agreed with everything he just told her. The wolf felt as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders, and the guy hugged his girlfriend. Lucy hoped that nothing else would change between them. After an explanation, the wolf volunteered to accompany the girl to the door of her house, which was very close to the school. At the very end of the walk, the wolf turned to the girl again and gently touched her face. Baskerville thanked his friend for coming out to him at such a late hour. In Lucy's eyes, the wolf looked as if it had broken the bonds that held it. The girl was glad that they were able to talk so well and clarify all the points. Already at home, she thought that they still could not be in a real relationship. Love doesn't last as long as friendship. Lucy wasn't in love with Roman. The girl now understood that Roman loved her from the very beginning, not as a friend. Lucy understood that from now on, everything between them would be as before. The long night ended, and a clear sunny day arrived, which was sorely missed. A strange girl approached Lucy at school and asked if she had spoken to Baskerville. The sheep was clearly not a little embarrassed by such attention from strangers. The girl already wanted to ask our heroine for something, but she refused in time. She explained that she and Roman are not as close as this raccoon thinks. It seemed that the stranger was satisfied with this answer. She wished her luck and left. Lucy was only thinking about how her life would have turned out if Roman had confessed earlier. The girl still couldn't get rid of the thoughts in her head, and the question of whether they could be together. Even now, the sheep noticed that she had torn all her origami paper due to stress. She should have been glad that Roman no longer loved her, but her heart was hurting. Now the wolf could communicate not only with her, but also with other guys and girls too. So autumn passed unnoticed, and real winter came with its frosts and ice. Emma approached her school friend and invited her to spend the night together. The girl was in such a good mood that she even allowed Khalid to come. Only after a moment did the rabbit realize that her friend looked very depressed. The girl didn't understand why Lucy didn't listen to her, and Khalid looked only at Lucy. After a couple of moments, the sheep seemed to come out of a trance and asked her friend to repeat the question. But if everything was more or less clear with the rabbit, it was still unclear why the snake was angry. A few minutes later, all three were already sitting at the table and drinking tea. After the rabbit ran away somewhere, Khalid and Lucy decided to spend time alone. Khalid didn't understand if the new student Roman Baskerville and Lucy were just friends. He asked to tell him everything, even if they were hiding something from the public eye. Lucy understood from her friend's tone alone that something was wrong with him. The girl denied any connection with Roman, but the snake did not want to calm down. Khalid thought for a long time and doubted whether he should tell the girl about this, but still decided. He began to smell Lucy's wolf scent immediately after Baskerville transferred to them. Lucy didn't feel it herself, so she couldn't understand that it was the wolf smell coming from her that Khalid smelled. In addition, each time Khalid felt the smell on the girl stronger and stronger. It seemed as if Roman had marked his territory. Lucy had absolutely no idea that her friend could behave this way towards her. At that moment, Emma the rabbit came into the kitchen and said that she had a surprise. The snake was as amazed as Lucy, but she advised him not to draw the wrong conclusions. And now Emma brought the only person who would be a good idea to avoid in the entire school. Lucy sat at her desk and continued to hum various melodies. It seemed to the girl that her heart might skip a couple of beats from excitement. Right in front of her, with a plate of vegetables in his hands, stood Roman Baskerville himself. The guy smiled happily and asked if he could join them. In turn, Lucy could not believe that he was specifically marking her. Emma saw the confusion on her friends' faces and misinterpreted it. The girl ran up to the snake and invited him to have dinner today, just the two of them. The guy did not want to leave his girlfriend with the wolf, but the rabbit was very persistent in her beliefs. Emma quickly persuaded the snake to leave the room and leave Roman and Lucy alone. Roman followed the retreating couple almost until the very end. Lucy was sorry that the guys left, because she would like to introduce them. Roman had no choice but to join Lucy and chat. The guy even suggested that the two were dating each other. He remembered how the snake looked at the rabbit with a dreamy look. But Lucy noticed that these two were just good friends at school, to which Roman noted that the guys looked good together and could very well date. However, he also noted that the guys are in the same relationship as they were before. Lucy realized that at such moments, Roman could be a very straightforward guy. I decided to clarify something from my friend firsthand. She tried to tell the guy about what had been making her worry the last few days. Other predators clearly noticed that Roman's scent is on the girl. The guy did not expect such a turn of events at all, so he suddenly grabbed the girl's hand. He sniffed and said that he felt absolutely nothing. Roman raised the girl's hand directly to his lips and inhaled her scent. He didn't know where else this smell could come from. Lucy was generally very embarrassed by this movement, so she simply agreed with the man's arguments. Roman remembered the girl's words that she and Khalid were good friends. Near the school, almost everything is grass, so the guy could feel selfish because of the quantity. Apparently, the wolf considered him a cold and calculating maniac. But Lucy asked him not to do anything, but after this walk, her hands did not freeze. Roman began to worry that Lucy might be bored here. The girl wanted to go further, after which Roman expressed a desire to follow her example. He pretended that he agreed to this only because the guys constantly spend time together. Even now they were arguing very nicely, but they did it as if they were flirting. Suddenly, a voice rang out in the heroine's head, saying that she would be leaving alone. The guy smiled slyly and asked if the girl had a day off on the eve of the day of the robe. The guy still didn't have any friends or relatives here, so sometimes we want him to spend time with familiar faces. Roman was very happy that he would finally be able to make these desserts this year. Lucy told her old friend's proposal to Emma. The girl said that you have to agree, at least in order to get into a good office. The rabbit wanted to bring the sheep and the wolf together, because then Lucy could become the bride of Baskerville. In addition, their meetings always end. Even among the people there is a proverb. Just now I heard that you first need to make an impression in order to start dating, then get married. Moreover, Khalid began to say something about the curses of the Baskervilles. In any case, they spoke for both sides. Now the question is different, what Lucy decides for herself. The rabbit repeated that they had known each other for a long time, and the guy transferred here especially for her sake. In her eyes, it was very romantic, and he really likes Lucy herself. Plus, the girl noticed that the guy smiles brighter when he's next to them. The rabbit's heart nearly jumped out of her chest when the wolf invited her to have dinner together for the first time. These words caused dissatisfaction on the face of the serpent, who literally said the opposite. He carefully moved the rabbit aside and said that she was too slow. With this being the case, he didn't understand how Emma could even call herself smart. The girl was upset because of this and thought that something was wrong with her. Khalid asked if Lucy had conveyed to Roman what he said about the smell. The sheep hesitated at first and didn't know what to answer, so she stood silently. Then she said that Roman was not sure where the smell was coming from. This answer quite infuriated the snake, who understood that this was complete nonsense. Khalid believed that this guy was truly dangerous, and Lucy was now in danger because he hesitated. Emma didn't understand why the guys didn't like each other so much. She even suggested that they were fighting for territory. The words that the snake was jealous of the wolf finally drove him home. After that, he began to quarrel with Emma with a vengeance. It didn't matter anyway, because the rabbit and the lamb agreed to spend the day of the chasuble together. The serpent was embarrassed that he was invited to such a homely family event. He was glad to be invited and asked the rabbit what gifts he should bring. The girl reminded them that they had no food for predators at home, so Khalid promised to bring medicine for his stomach to make it easier for him to eat only vegetables. Lucy looked at her friends and suddenly realized that they gave off a special atmosphere. The snake pretended that it could eat something that it could not even